Hey guys, what's going on? Druzy here, back again with another South Park Phone Destroyer video, and I'm a little bit late in discussing all the topics that I'm going to talk about today, as many of you have probably had ample time to see all the information that we're going to talk about. It was something that you guys wanted me to discuss in a video that I haven't gotten a chance to do yet, so I'm going to go ahead and try to do that for you today, as there were some balance update information that was given to us last week from Redlynx, and there are going to be some changes coming to some cards, primarily common cards, or I believe actually all the cards that are getting tweaked are common cards, which has been a wide amount of hatred towards this game. Was the debuffs to legendary cards that were done a couple of updates ago now. Well, some of them are going to get some of their power back. Not all the common cards, which is still a problem, and I'm still mildly upset with, along with the vast majority of the community, but some of them are getting, the underplayed common cards are going to be getting a buff to some degree. So we're going to talk about each of those, if I think they're actually going to be worth anything, and then I'm going to mention the 5 cards that I still think need a buff, through all the rarities, and I'll discuss why, and then I have a little mini surprise at the end of this video on top of all that. So a lot of things to go through. Unfortunately, no gameplay in this episode, so if you guys are looking for gameplay, you will not find any today. Sorry to tell you that, but let's just go ahead and talk about the buffs to cards, or the changes to cards that are going to be coming here in actually tomorrow, when the legendary season resets tomorrow. So that's the other thing, is that the season reset will be tomorrow. Okay, so I'm checking for us right now, so about 13 hours as I'm recording this video is when everything is going to be going live. So unfortunately it is not, so there's still some time to go here and get up there. As you can see, I am in the top 1500. I'm hoping to stay there in the world rankings to get the 4-tier pack, which will be the highest tier that I have obtained within this game so far. I usually get around 6th, 5th or 6th, pretty much when I finish the season off. So this is the highest I've climbed. I didn't play really at all yesterday, and I may not play much today, in all honesty, because don't really want to fall out of this tier if I can help it. I'm not really interested about the dwarf girl hat and costume, in all honesty, but I would really like to keep my ranking where I'm at right now, so I'm probably not going to be playing any PvP in the next couple of days. I know that you guys were really wanting to see this comeback of me playing your guys' deck suggestions. I will do that tomorrow when the season resets. So there is one deck I am for sure going to use that I've already built that has been suggested, but if there's some other decks you guys would like to see me use, put them in the comments section down below and I will show them for you guys. Alright guys, so let's get talking about the balancing that's going to be happening to these common cards. So the first common card that they're discussing is Labar Jimmy, which has been probably one of the worst common cards, and was one of the kind of common cards that you really need to get to a higher level, even before all the debuffs that happened to common cards. Before he was really useful, his base Warcry max health reduction is doubled from -25 to -50. Base Warcry will now also damage all enemies by 50 prior to the max health reduction. So that's going to be the change that's going to be done to Labar Jimmy, which a lot of people think at least the Warcry will put Labar Jimmy back at a level where he could probably be playable within the current meta of the game. I don't know if that's actually 100% true or not, but I do know that at least his health and damage are not being changed at all, so he's not probably going to be quite as strong as he once was, or and in all reality, I still don't think Labar Jimmy was really that worth it, even before this debuff to common cards. I don't think this is really going to put him back into the meta. I guess we'll see as time goes along. Outlaw Tweak. Base HP increased from 63 to 80. Base attack increased from 13 to 20. Warcry damage now hits all targets in the blast radius evenly. Previously, targets on the outside will receive minimal damage. So the Warcry damage has been decreased at the base from 100 to 70, or from 10 to 7 on the new kid. Warcry damage on the outer edge has been scaled up from 10 to 70. So again, it's 70 across the board for the base damage for the Warcry ability, which means it should do an aura of damage. This one might help Outlaw Tweak a little bit. I mean, you don't see a lot of common cards. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's a 4-cost in his card rarity. So I don't really see him being super useful. In fact, a lot of the tweaks really aren't that great of cards in all reality. So I'm not really looking for this buff to just say, oh man, now you can definitely play Tweak him. On the Outlaw Tweak is a 4 energy cost, so who knows. I don't, he's one of the cards that I really didn't touch early on in the game. You get him early on in the game, so you had the potential to level him up, but he was one of the couple of cards I didn't really touch very much, for obvious reasons, because he really wasn't that useful. So I don't know if this is going to be enough to put him back into the the meta, but a lot of this is just common range cards that have not really been tweaked at all. I mean, the Beybes are the very best common range cards right now within the current game, so I'm not going to even put Outlaw Tweak even close to that category, but who knows, maybe this Warcry might actually make him somewhat useful. Robin Tweak, his base attack and HP have been increased, the attack up 7 and the base HP up 17, so I don't know if this is really going to help Robin Tweak. He's pretty much a situational character. Again, his Warcry is his biggest ally, so it's him giving you that base health boost to whatever unit that he hits with his arrow. So I don't think this is going to really make Robin Tweak that much better than what he already was. Canadian Knight Ike is a rare card, so he's not a common card. Base HP increased from 60 to 88. Base ability health boost increased from 20 to 30. So this was a widely used combo, was these two cards, Robin Tweak and Canadian Knight Ike, was the combo to end all combos for the longest time. If you had a level 5 Canadian Knight Ike and like a level 6 Robin Tweak for the longest time in the game before all the debuffs that were done to common cards and all that stuff, that, you know, this was a dangerous combination to go against, and it was very hard to take these cards out. Now, because you're seeing the wider use of cancel cards and you're seeing the epics and legendaries be so much stronger, this combo doesn't work quite as well anymore. So I'm unsure if this is really going to put this back in a meta shift with these common cards, or these two cards being paired together again. I guess we'll see as time goes along. This is the only change that I think actually could make this card useful again. That is Marine Craig. Now, in my opinion, I'm not saying he was completely useless, but I didn't see him really that super useful for the longest time within this game. I think this could definitely make him more viable now. His base Warcry damage against the new kid increased from 4 to 5 per second. Base Warcry damage against enemy units increased from 8 to 10 per second. Total Warcry duration has been decreased from 6 to 5 seconds, so 1 second less duration. Increased the area effect, or AoE, of the Warcry ability from 1.8 to 2.5. So he's going to hit way more things with this poison AoE. It's going to last a little less in duration, but it's going to do a decent amount more damage, both to the enemy units by 2 more per second and the new kid by 1 per second. So I think this could, like a level 6 Marine Craig, could be pretty difficult to deal with now within the current shape of the meta. I don't know if a 5 is going to be that good. I have no idea what his Warcry damage potential actually is. Let's look at what I've got so far to try to better assess that. So I only have him to level 4, almost max level 4. He does 10 damage per second for 6 seconds and a 1.8 power range. Well, I mean, the range is what it is. So 6 seconds, so 60 damage per second to units. So, you know, who knows if that's going to be a huge change or whatnot. So it was a base of 8, and it's got scaled up to 10 at level 4. So I would assume it'd be now 12 to 14 maybe when these buffs go live here tomorrow. But I think Marine Craig could be dangerous to deal with. There were a decent amount of people that had him to level 6 because Sci-Fi really only had one range unit for the longest time, and that was this one that was probably really worth it until, of course, you know, Robo Baby was introduced and Bounty Hunter Kyle, which are now the only 2 range units most Sci-Fi players even use. But some still have a higher level Marine Craig. This could be a dangerous card now, especially within, I mean, because this is going to help him not only within the ladder play, but it's going to help him also in challenge mode. So you could see Marine Craig make more of a comeback now, I think, within the game. We'll kind of see how that shifts up, but realistically, out of all these cards, this is the only one I think actually the buff will help the card in the grand scheme of things. Mimsy, his base HP is increased by 100 and base attack up by 4. That's not going to do anything. To me, Mimsy is still not that great of a card. I've seen level 6, level 7 Mimsy in Legendary Arena. They might get 2 hits on my new kid, because with the epic cards and how strong they are, especially like a dog poo, I mean, he just goes down so fast. And so many people are using Bounty Hunter Kyle so where they can just swarm Mimsy to where he just gets decimated. I don't think this is going to help Mimsy at all. I mean, it's going to help him, but I don't think it's going to make him where he's in the meta or anything like that. Gunslinger Kyle, base attack has been increased from 15 to 20. This could help Gunslinger Kyle because I actually liked Gunslinger Kyle for the longest time. I still think he's useful. That increase that he does to all attack damage for all allied units for a brief period of time was really nice. But now he's going to be able to do a little bit more damage. So now he might be a little bit more useful. But still, Bounty Hunter Kyle is by far way better than Gunslinger Kyle. But I think you could see Gunslinger Kyle make a smaller emergence, I think maybe within the meta shift. Dark Mage Craig increased the area of effect AoE on his Warcry ability from 1.8 to 2. So his AoE is going to do for his Warcry as far as the, turd that he throws across the field to affect the overall damage potential for a brief period of time. That's going to be bigger or wide aura so that it will affect more units, but it's not going to increase the damage. It doesn't increase what he does. I still think he's a pretty decent rare range unit just because he does AoE damage similar to Terrence Mephisto and Nathan. So, I mean, he's still got some use. I don't think this really helps him immensely. It's going to help him a little bit, but I don't think it's really going to shift him anywhere within the meta where he was already at. So, in reality, I think Marine Craig's really the only card out of these, 7 cards that really gets the buff that actually I think could actually tilt in their favor. I think the Bard Jimmy could be interesting and I think could possibly reemerge a little bit. I think Outlaw Tweak might see some reemergence if anyone was mildly dumb enough to level him up in the first place for the longest time, because you didn't see a lot of people level up Outlaw Tweak. I didn't say nobody did. I'm not saying nobody did, but not very many did because he just really wasn't that useful of a card. Maybe those people will get vastly rewarded by putting all their materials into Outlaw Tweak. But there were so many better adventure cards to put materials into. Outlaw Tweak pretty much got put to the side for the most part. I don't think this is going to make Robin Tweak and Canadian Night Ike's combo any more dangerous. I think it could help the combo a little bit, especially Canadian Night Ike more so than Robin Tweak, because Robin Tweak's damage and HP really wasn't the end-all be-all. It was just his Warcry. Like, pretty much you just wasted him for his Warcry so you could get him back in rotation faster in all reality. So I don't think this really helps Robin Tweak at all. But that's just my opinion on the balance changes, guys, as far as what we know from Redlynx. Now remember, all these things are going to be taking effect Tuesday, October 2nd, which will be tomorrow, the day after I post this. I know I'm a little late in announcing these balance changes, but this is the only changes that are coming to card restructuring before this new season starts tomorrow. So there's no other changes that have been announced from Redlynx as far as I know, and if there are or if anything changes, I will of course let you guys know as we go along. But now let's talk real quickly about the 5 cards that I think need to get some kind of change within the game structure to be more useful within the current meta. So the first card, in my opinion, that needs a buff is Incan Craig. And I've said this so many times now that Incan Craig needs some kind of buff. He is just still not very useful for a card within the current meta, especially a legendary card. He needs to get better all around. He needs an increase to his range. He needs an increase to his aura of his Warcry laser beam, and he needs to do more damage overall. So he needs to get attack damage scaling. Maybe his health I think is okay. He needs a boost to his attack damage because it is really weak. He needs to have a 4 range, and then his damage for his Warcry is probably okay. Maybe it could be a little bit stronger, but it just needs to have a longer beam radius so that it actually affects and hits more enemies. Until that time comes, I don't see Incan Craig being that useful in the current meta shift. If you want to decrease his energy cost, that would be useful as well. But at a 5 energy cost, he is not worth it. He is not valuable enough for you to have right now at the current structure of the way the card is set up. The next card that I really think needs a buff is Ice Sniper Wendy. I still don't think Ice Sniper Wendy is very strong, very useful right now within the current meta shift. I don't really know what she needs. Maybe an increase to the freeze duration that she uses with her charge ability. Make the animation a little bit faster. Probably needs to tweak her overall health scaling slightly, or maybe her damage output. She's just not as useful as some of the other cards right now within the game. I still think there are other Wendys that are stronger right now within the meta. I mean, Shield Mania Wendy excluded, but I think out of the other range units, I still think she's one of the weaker Wendys of the ranged Wendys. I think that there are just so much more cards now that are better in the sci-fi range theme, especially 2 that just stand out above the rest. But I think even Marine Craig has now gone up ahead of Ice Sniper Wendy now, and I think that if she got some kind of buff, maybe not to range, maybe to just her health and damage scaling, and then with an increase to her power duration, I think that maybe you would see Ice Sniper Wendy be a little bit more useful right now within the meta structure. Warboy Tweak. Warboy Tweak needs one because he is still not very good. Like, his damage and his health are not that great. His Warcry is not as useful as it could be. I think it needs to be increased to maybe doubled, something like that. Like, the power duration is not long enough. It can max out at mine. The power duration minimum is 2.05 seconds, and then the max is 4.05 seconds. I think maybe that needs to be doubled in all reality just to make him actually worth it. I mean, again, usually with a tweak card, you're not utilizing him for his actual ability, or you're not using him for his actual normal damage and health scaling. Like with Robin Tweak, for instance, you're just using it mostly for the Warcry, but even Warboy Tweak's Warcry isn't that useful. You would much rather want to have something along the lines of Hyperdrive, or even Astro Butters' ability to do that, Death Wish to get that boost to overall speed up. It's just so much is better than Warboy Tweaks, to where I would just rather use Hyperdrive than use Warboy Tweak, and that's not ideal for basically this card, which was primarily used as a spell card in all reality in the first place, and then a very terrible range unit. But he doesn't even have any value whatsoever. I don't think even his Warcry isn't that great right now within the meta shift. I think Warboy Tweak needs an adjustment on a decent scale to make him actually viable, and until that time comes, I don't think you're really going to see Warboy Tweak hardly at all. Next, Stan the Great. Stan the Great might be the weakest Stan card now within the game, and for the longest time he was the strongest. They debuffed him now twice, maybe 3 times total within the grand scheme of things over the course of updates throughout the course of this game. His enemy attack decrease has been nerfed. His overall health and power has been nerfed. He is probably the weakest Stan. I mean, Poseidon Stan has more health, I believe, and more attack damage than Stan the Great. So he needs a tweak to the health and damage. Maybe keep the attack decrease or enemy attack decrease where it's at. But unless you have a level 6 Stan the Great, you're just not going to see him right now within the meta right now, because he's just not good at level 5. Even max level 5, I still don't see him to be as useful as, say, Poseidon Stan at max level, which I have both of them in that kind of back and forth. But Stan the Great, I think, definitely needs some kind of buff to him to be more useful. He's useful only pretty much in challenge mode right now, or if you have him a level 6 or level 7, you could probably use him within the current meta structure. But I mean, the biggest annoyance of him was that reduce attack for all enemies for 5 seconds, but it's been nerfed so many times now that he's just not, it's not even useful. It doesn't even phase you very long. Now, I mean, Storyteller Jimmy's debuff is far more infuriating and far more difficult to deal against than what Stan the Greats provides you, and at a 3 energy cost unit, he's just not very useful right now, and he was really, really good for a long time. So he definitely needs a buff to some degree. Probably a little bit boost to damage and attack. Maybe not adjust his attack decrease, but if you want to increase that or adjust that, that would probably help him. It would definitely not hurt him. Definitely help him in the long run. Lastly, Mr. Hanky. Now the only change. Now I get Mr. Hanky is basically a legendary spell card, and that's okay. But his Warcry needs to be adjusted, and I've said this before. It's 20 seconds, which is good and can be useful at times, but it needs to be 30, because if you're going to make someone like Youth Pastor Craig, who has a 30-second, where his Warcry will last for 30 seconds, then Mr. Hanky and the legendary card needs to be equal to or greater than that 30 seconds. And some of you might say, Drew, that is way too powerful if we did that to Mr. Hanky. And that might be true. But at the same time, right now, he is completely worthless. You are never going to see him in the meta, except maybe in challenge mode, because of the fact that his Warcry doesn't last very long. And for the most part, most of those units are probably going to die anyways. Somebody casts an Arrow Storm, could probably wipe out that entire push anyways. So the Warcry doubling the charge rate for 20 seconds needs to be extended. The attack and health and all that stuff, you know, whatever with that, I get what Mr. Hanky's value is supposed to be within the current structure of the game, but for sure, you need to increase his power duration to at least 30 seconds. If you want to make it, I think 40 seconds is too much, but make it 30 or 35 seconds to at least make Mr. Hanky somewhat more viable within this meta shade. If you want legendary cards to feel legendary, that's the only way you're going to really make him legendary, in my opinion, or make him feel more that way, is by increasing the power duration of his Warcry. And again, guys, one last thing I did want to talk about real quick before we wrap up the video is I did get some of, I've been starting to collect different stuff for South Park Phone Destroyer, or at least little collectible kind of stuff. I did get that shirt that I showcased in a video later last week, but I also started collecting the little figurines as well. So I'm going to try to get as many figurines as I can. As you can see behind me, I've got a lot of different pops, a lot of different stuff. But because I do South Park exclusively, or not really exclusively, but primarily as my main source of content here on the channel, I needed some more South Park kind of figurines, or at least figurines that adjust to Phone Destroyer specifically. So I got, of course, a Grand Wizard Cartman little figurine. I've got a little Paladin Butters figurine as well, even with his little tiny hammer. We've got Stan the Great as well. All of these are, yes, I get that all these are from the Stick of Truth, but they also are relevant to Phone Destroyer, so it works for both scenarios. We've got Kyle of the Drow Elves as well, even with his little golf club, and then Princess Kenny. So all 5 of these I currently have in my possession, and I will be trying to look and get other little collectibles to put behind me for not only this setup or even my future setup when I do end up hopefully moving in the near future and having a lot better setup here as far as my ability to make content and stuff like that here going forward, in probably a little bit more into the future. But yeah, I'm going to be trying to put some more South Park stuff back behind me, because I know that's a few things that some people have talked about. If you know any great places to get South Park little, items or stuff, and mostly stuff that's relevant again to Phone Destroyer, let me know down below in the comments section, and I will look for them and I will try to add them as I go along, so I can have as much South Park stuff behind me as possible as I continue to make content for this game that we all know and love. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you are not following me on any of these social media outlets, please do so. All that information is always down in the description of every video I do. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much, and until next time, guys, my name is Druzy,